Hi everyone, this is Howard. Welcome to another Star Talk Tuesday. This Tuesday being June 16th, 2020. Now, if you're a familiar Florida resident, you know that June does not necessarily mean it's great to look at the sky. Typically June and July and certainly into August, this is our rainy season, and with the rain of course means lots of clouds in the sky, and if you like to look up into the sky and see things, the only thing you're going to see are the bottom of the clouds, for the most part. Now there are moments where we get views and they're not really predictable and you can't really count on them. What I find is that these opportunities to observe generally appear when most people are asleep, around between 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. The sky likes to clear up sometimes, and occasionally in that hour right before dawn. These opportunities usually happen when everyone is asleep. Now, with that being said, here in June, what we're approaching is the beginning of summer. And on June 20th, not only is it the first day of summer, it's the longest day of the year, and this is an astronomical consequence. It's because the sun appears highest in our sky for northern hemisphere observers. For those of us on the Earth, on the northern half, or what we describe as the northern hemisphere, the sun appears highest in our sky. For southern observers, it's the exact opposite. It's lowest in their sky. We'll just deal with the northern hemisphere view for now. So as a consequence of this particular day and where the sun appears in our sky, we get the greatest amount of daylight, the longest day. We still only have 24 hours to play with, but the sun is dominating most of the views, so we get more daytime than nighttime. And in the southern hemisphere, of course, they're getting the opposite. Now, this is not because the sun does something strange. It's because what the Earth is doing. And because we're on the Earth, we generally tend to be oblivious of what the Earth is doing. The Earth has a tilt relative to the plane of the solar system, and as a consequence of this tilt, where the Earth is in relation to the sun, the tilt changes your view. So, as a fun little exercise, I'm going to put this in a nice equitable position. Whoops, that's a little bit too much. What I want to do is have everyone simulate their view as if they are the Earth. And so what I want you to pretend is that, or you don't have to pretend, I know you're doing this, you're looking at the sun. And if you're sitting in front of your computer screen, the sun should be relatively level with your eyes. And what I want you to do is, number one, don't take your eyes off the sun here. While looking at the sun, slowly tilt your head down as far as you can comfortably go. And as you get down to the lowest point that you can tilt your head down and still look at the sun, you'll notice that you'll probably see your eyebrows or your forehead next to the sun, meaning you're seeing at the top of your view. Now if you tilt your head the other way and start to tilt your head up as far as you can while maintaining the view of the sun, now you see your nose next to the sun, and that's the extreme bottom part of your view. Now as we go back to normal and park your head in a normal observational position, the sun appears about halfway. What I want you to consider is that if you didn't know that your head was tilting up or tilting down, you might think that the computer screen was moving up and down in your field of view. And that's what we do with the sun. It's the Earth that's our head. The tilt changes our view, and it makes the sun looks like it goes from high to low in our sky. Let me show you what's happening. We're going to make time go by. Not hours, but days. And what we're simulating is the view from the Earth while it's the side looking at the sun. So of course the Earth is rotating on its axis, but we're going to ignore that motion for a moment, that rotation, and just simply look at the changing Earth's position. And so watch as time goes by. First we're going to take this to June 20th, right there. There's the sun's highest position in our sky. And now we're just going to simply accelerate forward. And now what you'll notice as time goes by, we're in July. The sun is starting to get lower and lower and lower. And by the time we get into September, right around here, we're at the halfway point. Halfway to what? Halfway to the lowest point. So we take this all the way from October into November, and finally November into December. And we're still lowering. And right here, oops, a little bit too far. Here, in December, now the sun is seen at its lowest point in the sky. For us in the northern hemisphere, now we are seeing what the southern hemisphere observers were seeing on June 20th. meaning for us, the sun appears relatively low in the sky, and if you're way down the southern hemisphere, it appears really high for them. It's the exact opposite. So here the sun appears really low, and if you want to think of this in that visual metaphor, the southern horizon here is like seeing your nostrils, and you're looking in the other direction, of course, is like looking and seeing your forehead, meaning the sun is like the computer screen that appears to be moving up and down. But it's really just the changing orientation of the Earth. And of course, as we continue to move forward again, it starts to rise. And the sun is moving up again in our view, and we get right into March 20th. Let's take that to March 20th. There we go. That's close enough. And there we are at the halfway point again. And what we see is, the sun's, well, halfway up the sky. And we'll take this all the way back to June 20th again. April, May. Yeah, we'll finally get there. And as you can see, the sun is still moving up. There we go, June 20th, and now the sun is back to its really high position. I'm going to just take it back a year, bring us back to normal. There we go, now it's June 20th, 2020. Now, what you watched was the sun appear to go up and down. It's not quite tracing out just a straight up and down line in our sky. I'm speaking about the sun as if it's doing the moving. Of course, you got to remember it's the Earth. But what you have here, if you were a very patient person, very methodical, if you took a camera and you parked it somewhere where you didn't have to touch it and move it, and you got a good shot of the sky, you could take a picture of the sky. If you did this every day, at the same time, every day, you got a pretty clear shot of the sky, you could see something like this. This is called an analemma. This was taken at Bell Labs in New Jersey, looking east, at the same time every day, and what it reveals is the changing position of the sun. Because they're looking east, it has a tilt. If this were a little bit higher up in the sky, it would look probably more like what we see as a straight up and down orientation, but what you see is it's not going straight up and straight down. It's kind of going up and curving around and creating a figure 8. This would be the summer solstice, highest in the sky. This is the winter solstice, lowest in the sky. And that intersection represent the equinoxes where it's the halfway point. Now, that is our summer solstice. That's on June 20th, and again, not something that you can actually observationally see. It's what you'll experience. It's just helpful to know what's going on. Now, visually speaking, there is an exciting thing to see in the sky, and it happens to fall in that time where we might actually have an opportunity to see it. This will be on Friday, June 19th, before the sunrise, and so I'm going to take this to June 19th. We're going to go back in time, and what you can see there, of course, is the moon and Venus, and I'm going to take this back by minutes now. There we go. Take this about as far back as we can go and get it high enough above the horizon, right about there. So this is about 20 minutes to 6, and I know that this is not opportune for many of us. Some of you are saying there, well, I'm up at 5:40, but I'm not getting out of bed at that particular moment. And that's fine, but you'll miss out on this. Now, I'm going to zoom in, and what we see, of course, is the moon and Venus rising up out of the eastern sky. Now, what's really cool here is that Venus was just an evening object. Now it's an early morning object. It's shifted in its position around the sun, and what we see is a very old crescent moon. It's the moon about to become a new moon. So what we see is a tiny little sliver of the moon. As we zoom in, look what Venus looks like. A tiny sliver of the moon. Now, unfortunately for us here in Florida, we miss a spectacular visual event occurring, well, for people in Asia, because they get to see this earlier. For us, if we wind back the clock earlier when the moon was closer to Venus, well, it goes below the horizon and we lose sight of it. and the only people that can see it are those in Asia. So what I'm going to do is simulate that view. Number one, I'm going to lock onto Venus. There we go. And I'm going to show you what we missed. Excuse me. Number one, I'm going to take back time. We're going to go back. Oops. There we go. And I have to make the ground disappear because the ground is blocking the view. There we go. So if you imagine we were in Asia, I'll take this back. I think it's 1 more hour. Nope, it's not 1 more hour. I got to keep locking back on. There we go. So as we move forward in time here, this is what they get to see in Asia. And it gives you a remarkable sense of scale. Look at this. A crescent Venus next to a crescent moon. And I know that maybe this will happen for us again in the Northern Hemisphere. I really wish we could see this, because this would be an excellent photographic opportunity. It's like a big parenthesis next to a tiny little parenthesis. Gives you a really tremendous sense of scale. Now, unfortunately, this, of course, is not something that we will be able to see, because as I pull this out into the view, put the Earth back up, there's where its relative position is. It's way down below the horizon, so for us, we simply won't be able to see it. And later on, whoops, as time goes by the time it comes into our field of view, Venus is already separated away from the moon. So what we see is this. We can see that separation. We get the beautiful naked eye view. You don't get that up close view. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again for joining us today. That concludes another Star Talk Tuesday. We'll see you all next time.